Hello to everyone and welcome. Today's session is called Healthy Cooking for Busy People. So we thank you for joining us. My name is Maria Cecilia Mosquera. I am a clinical assistant professor in the Department of Primary Care and Population Health at the University of Nicosia Medical School. I'm a pediatrician and a public health preventive medicine physician who is preventive medicine certified and a diplomat of the American Board of Obesity Medicine. Today with me will also be Dr. Elena Filipou, and I will let her introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Dr. Elena Filipou. I'm a clinical dietitian. I'm an associate professor in nutritional dietetics in the Department of Life and Health Sciences at the University of Nicosia. So for today's session, we would just like to let you know that during the session you can ask questions anytime in the YouTube chat box, and that the recipes will be listed at the end of the session, so you don't need to write them down while we are presenting them, and that this video will be saved and will be accessible on this site later on at any time that you wish to access it. So what we would like to do today is describe what a balanced healthy diet is and what a balanced healthy plate is, to explain how to create SMART goals rather than just any type of goal, to demonstrate ease to incorporate more plant-based foods into your diet, and describe techniques that can be used when people are very busy and that they can start preparing and cooking healthy foods at home in an easy fashion. And we would just like to let you know that in today's busy world, lifestyle medicine is extremely important. Lifestyle medicine comprises of 6 pillars, and these being healthful eating, physical activity, stress management, relationships, sleep, and avoiding substances. Today, we will concentrate on healthy eating. There are other sessions that were done before and will be done in the future on the other pillars. And this stemmed from the fact that at the University of Nicosia, we did a lifestyle study. And what we did was we wanted to see how lifestyle changed during the time that Cyprus was under lockdown. So what we did was that with the University of Nicosia Medical School Department of Life and Health Sciences, we invited adults that resided in Cyprus to participate in our study with the aim to see how lifestyle habits changed between February 2020, when we were not under lockdown, and the time when Cyprus was in lockdown. And we looked at the different pillars of lifestyle medicine. But now, if we concentrate on the results of healthy eating or generally diet, we found that only those who were fasting as per the Greek Orthodox religious tradition, which basically means that you are eating like a vegan, only those people adhered more to the Mediterranean diet. But people ate more vegetables in general, fresh fruit, legumes, nuts, or fish or shellfish during the lockdown, but they also drank more sweet beverages, ate more dairy products, more commercial sweets or pastries, and also more butter, margarine, or cream. So this is what led us to decide to do today's presentation, to look at how we can improve on that. So before we start looking at what a healthy plate looks like and how you can cook more healthfully, let's look at what is a healthy diet. I think this sometimes gets really confusing for some people, but it can be easily represented using this pyramid. This pyramid, you might have seen it before, is the Mediterranean diet pyramid. And the bottom of the pyramid that you can see here is full of vegetables, fruits, and lots of whole grain products like whole grain bread, potatoes, and also legumes. On top of that, we find olive oil, we find fish, a little bit of poultry later on. And at the very top of the Mediterranean diet, which means that we eat it much less regularly, is red meat. Actually, it's a good idea to know that in the past, they used to eat red meat, only once a week. And that was very good for the people that were following the Mediterranean diet. Another thing that is very common in the Mediterranean diet is the consumption of red wine. A small glass of red wine together with meals is something that is regularly consumed as part of this diet. And the healthy relationships, eating together, as you can see at the bottom, going out for walks, playing, having exercise as part of healthy living. That is also extremely important. So in the next slide, we can see again the pyramid, and we can also see how a plate would look as part of the Mediterranean diet, which, as you can see, is very colorful, is full of different colors of fruits and vegetables. And then we have whole grain products. We have a small portion of our protein foods, such as fish, lean chicken or eggs, and then also dairy products. And the very smallest portion is made up of healthy fats, such as olive oil. I think you can see here a little bit of dark chocolate, which is very good, especially for the brain. And that makes a healthy plate as part of the Mediterranean diet. So if we can see the next slide, we will see that this is not a diet, but it is a healthy way of eating. And people in the past, like in Crete in the 1940s, had this diet and were able to live many years unhealthily. So it's actually considered that the Mediterranean diet, if we can see the next slide, it is an anti-aging diet. And although we must say there is no anti-aging elixir, it's a healthy lifestyle. And this healthy lifestyle includes the Mediterranean diet, may actually prolong the human lifespan and reduce disease, especially cardiovascular disease, also brain damage, cognitive decline, diabetes, cancer, and this has been proven many times and has been shown in many studies. So if we can have the next slide. Yeah, Dr. Mosquera now will show you what is a healthy plate of food.
Yes, so maybe if you live in Cyprus, you've cooked this at home or ordered this at a restaurant. This is a plate of pleftiko with some fries and a grain. And it is quite the size of a platter. And this is not alone to Cyprus, but to many places in the world. It usually might be served with a salad beforehand. So it contains the contents of what Dr. Filippo described are part of a Mediterranean diet with their fruits and vegetables, but it does contain meat, which Dr. Filippo mentioned is usually traditionally eaten infrequently. So when we look at the right-hand side, we want to focus on, like Dr. Filippo said, fruits and vegetables, so that your plate is filled with as many plant-based products as possible. In this case, the protein is from a plant-based source. These are chickpeas, and then a whole grain bread. This is a whole grain pita bread. So with the idea that you want to focus on plants, whole grains, lean proteins in your diet. So I'll just show another example. Dr. Filippo mentioned and showed before the Mediterranean diet. This plate is merely a plant-based diet, which just reminds you that you want to focus the variety and the most of your diet on plants. And you can see here the comparison of that image I showed you of the plant-based diet with the plates that we saw. So you can see that half of the plate on the right-hand side is fruits and vegetables, whereas on the left-hand side, it's not. Traditionally, as I mentioned, that plate would have been eaten with a bowl of salad, but the plate is big enough that the portions itself would have been larger than you would want. So you want to look at the size of your plate. You also want to look at the balance of fruits and vegetables and other plant-based products with your proteins and your carbohydrates. So Dr. Filippo will now talk about how to develop SMART goals.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Mosquera. It's important to note that many times people try to change what they eat, but they say, okay, from tomorrow, I'm going to eat only fruit or only legumes. This is not a good way of setting goals. So we have something called SMART goals, which basically means that the goals should be specific, measurable, realistic, and time-based. What is specific? It means what specifically would you like to add or change? And we will see an example in a minute. What is measurable? It means how much or how many will you add or change? So first you need to see what you're doing now in terms of what you eat, so that what you said is something that is actually realistic to change. And the third one is achievable. Do you have what it takes to follow through? Do you have, for example, the food that you require in order to consume it? Realistic, of course, it means what can you do? It shouldn't be perfect. It can be an improvement on what you're doing now. And time-based, which means how often or how long will you make this change for? This can be applied both to dietary goals, but also to any other goal that we want to set in life. So, for example, if we want to set a goal, for example, for healthy snacks, we can say, starting on Monday, I will carry 2 healthy snacks with me to work each workday for the next week. This is specific because we decided to take healthy snacks to work. It's measurable because we can say each workday, so I can track my progress. Have I done it or not done it? It's achievable because I can stock my fridge with whatever the healthy snack is going to be. It's realistic because I can try it for 1 week and then I can see what the obstacles were and then change or adjust accordingly. And it's time-based because there's a start date and an end date. And this is a 1-week trial. I can see how I go and then adjust accordingly. So this is an example of a very well set SMART goal for healthy eating. So now I'm going to pass you on again to Dr. Mosquera, who's going to talk about healthy snacks and how they can become available.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Filipou. So we made a goal, a SMART goal, to take snacks that are healthy to work. So you want to make sure that you're prepared. On this slide are some examples. These are actually photos of my own snacks or photos I've taken of snacks we've had at work or that I've taken to parties. So the left-hand side are pumpkin-shaped mandarins or tangerines that you can make for a group party. But you can have snacks that contain some protein and some healthy fats because those would be more filling than just eating fruits and vegetables alone. So on the bottom, you can see fruits with peanut butter and almond butter. And on the left-hand picture on the bottom are energy balls, which are made with dates, oats, and you can add things like goji berries or dried cherries. These even have dark chocolate chips, which are in my household, my daughter really loves, actually. So next is an example of a healthy eating goal. If you were to decide to start on Monday to add a fruit or a vegetable to every meal for the next week, like Dr. Filipou described, this is specific because what we chose to do is to add fruits and vegetables to our diet. It's measurable because you chose to say every meal. And the reason it's achievable is because this is for somebody that's already at most meals, including fruits and vegetables. And so they want to shift from eating fruits and vegetables in most meals to every meal. And they have fruits and vegetables in their fridge. It's realistic because they're really only trying it for a week, and then they're going to see what the obstacles they encountered. They're not going to judge themselves about how it went. They're just going to see what were the obstacles and how can they overcome them. And it's time-based because they're starting on a Monday and it's lasting only for a week. So if we were to add vegetables or fruits to every meal or snack, here on this slide, you'll see pictures from my household, and most of these actually were taken this weekend. So these are real foods that my family ate on Saturday, Sunday, etc. And there are 2 examples each for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. So on the left-hand side is the breakfast, and this is oats with oat milk and fruits. And you can add a seed like a pumpkin seed or a sesame seed. The bottom picture is eggs with zucchini. For lunch, you can see some salmon feta salad, and the bottom one are some black bean tortilla cups. And these recipes will be at the end of this slide, of the slides for today, so you don't have to write them down. The dinner is chickpea tikka masala with that salad and fruit and pita, and the bottom is homemade sushi. As you can tell, they're homemade because they're not as pretty as they would be at the store, but they tasted delicious and they're fun to make. And snacks, as I showed before, which are fruits with nuts. And the bottom picture you'll see in the recipes, and I'll show you a little bit later, is called banana and ice cream. So you want to add fruits and vegetables to every meal. You can come up with some ideas and recipes, and we're going to give you some today. Another idea for healthy cooking goals. So we talked about healthy eating goals and snack goals, but you also you might want to consider, or this might feel more meaningful to you, is something like this. Let's start on Monday to cook a healthy dinner at home 3 days a week, each week for the next 2 weeks. So this is somebody that likes to cook, wants to cook healthy. So what they decided to do was cook healthy dinners, measurable because it's 3 dinners a week, not every night, and they can track their progress. It's achievable because they right now they're doing 1 day a week and they want to go to 3 days a week. They're not saying I'm going from 1 day a week to 7 days a week. And they have healthy foods in their pantry and kitchen. It's realistic, like I mentioned, and it's time-based because it has a start and an end date. So how do you cook healthy food at home when life is busy? So if you're like us, we are busy working people with families. So maybe you're leaving work or you're ending work, or you're not ending work because you're working virtually and you're working all the time. And you realize it's time to make dinner, but you don't have anything planned. So it might be tempting to turn to ordering a pizza, picking up something on the way home. And sometimes you might decide that what's more meaningful to you is to try to have something healthy and easy prepared to make it easier. So that's what we're talking about today. So how do you cook healthy and prepare healthy foods so that they're ready for you when you're a busy person? So I'm going to go through some time-saving tips, and with Dr. Filippo, we'll give you some examples of how we do this ourselves. So this is what we're going to go through in the next slides. 1 is use what you have. 2 is stock your kitchen. 3 is plan ahead and how to prepare batches of things. To use the same ingredients in several recipes, take shortcuts, and keep it simple. So this first one is using what you have. You'll see a picture on the left-hand upper corner of my overripe bananas. So I told you these are all my pictures in my household. So what I usually do with overripe bananas is I don't like to throw food away. So we freeze the bananas. You slice them, you stick them on a cookie sheet. You can use a silicone mat, or you can use some parchment paper and a cookie sheet, and then you stick it in bags, just like any other frozen fruit. And you pull it out when you're ready. You can really just, I'll show you the recipe later, but it really just stick it in a food processor or a blender with some liquid, like some milk, oat milk, and maybe some vanilla extract, and that's it. You can add some Greek yogurt, or you can add flavors. So on the right-hand side, you see one where I added frozen berries, one where we added cocoa powder and dark chocolate chips, or the plain vanilla one. And this is a quick, easy snack after school. Sometimes I make it for my daughters. It's really convenient because people tend to just use bananas for banana bread, but there are other nice things we can do. And in the summertime, it's a very nice cream break instead of having ice cream. And it has all the healthy vitamins of fruits, and you can even add vegetables if you want to get exciting into your ice cream. So we're going to talk about stocking your kitchen with staple ingredients. And these are some examples. Go ahead, Dr. Filippo.
I was going to add to that I sometimes make smoothies. So using either milk or like oat milk or soya milk or normal milk.
Absolutely.
Milk, bananas and berries or strawberries. And sometimes maybe a little bit of honey if someone wants it, and a little bit of cinnamon, and make a lovely smoothie as well with the frozen bananas.
Thank you so much, Dr. Filippo, for your addition. It's a great point. Actually, today in my household, we made smoothies this afternoon. Usually I tend to do that also when I have a fruit that's a little bit overripe, because they taste so much better when they're overripe, and add some flavor to the smoothie. So thank you for adding that, Dr. Filippo. And I'm going to show Dr. Filippo so she can tell us too. This is what my kitchen looks like. So these are pictures straight from my pantry. So I have bean seeds, I have nuts and whole grains like rice, quinoa, whole grain pasta, some oats. I have plant-based milks and tomatoes and canned beans, spices. I also use shortcuts. So I have some frozen vegetables, usually things like onions. I honestly don't like to chop onions. And so if I can, I will either chop a whole batch and freeze them, or I'll buy them sometimes, I have to tell you. And then I have greens and fruits and vegetables. Now, Dr. Filippo, can you tell us a little bit about what you have in to stock your pantry?
Yes, of course. I have all these too. I also have belga wheat always. Belga wheat. I also have whole wheat orzo, which is a small pasta, and some whole grain pasta. Definitely, I always have in my freezer berries, blueberries, and raspberries, because I use them in my porridge every morning. I love those, and also in smoothies, which is very rich in antioxidants. And I think, Yeah, that's about it.
And I think that both of us have some form of lean protein. So you would also have maybe those you might get fresh or you might freeze, fish or chicken, besides also plant-based protein sources and some dairy products as well. Like in my fridge right now, I have some light feta cheese and we have some plain Greek yogurt so that I can put in things like my banana and ice cream. So thank you for your addition, Dr. Filipo. So planning ahead. I'm going to show you some.
And we forgot that, of course. This I have, and cottage cheese.
Yes, absolutely. And you'll see in the example for planning ahead that this is the menu from Monday to Sunday, and it includes eggs that you can eat with zucchini. So this is an example of making a schedule and planning ahead. It might be really meaningful to some people. For some people, they like to be organized and they like to know exactly what they're going to be eating for the next week. It makes it easier for them because they can prepare when they buy food. They can prepare maybe chop up their veggies and prepare some of their foods on the weekend when they have more time than during the week. So some people really like to have schedules. It makes it easier. Here are some examples of some of the foods that might have in my household. And sometimes I make a schedule, but I'll tell you that what's actually more important is that planning ahead doesn't have to mean making a schedule. So if a schedule feels right for you, then try it. It might make it easier for you to be organized. But what it really means, planning ahead, is trying to make the most of your time. And that's where batch preparation comes into play. So what is this? So this is what I did on Saturday. Even my daughter knows how to make this one, and she's only 10. So we make chickpeas in my household all the time, and I happen to have an electric pressure cooker, but you can make chickpeas on the stove or with a regular pressure cooker. And what I usually do is I'll make a recipe and let's say it says 2 cups of cooked chickpeas. Well, I'll usually double or triple the recipe because then you can freeze part of it or stick it in the fridge for a different recipe. And I've shown you in this picture what we had for dinner, and then what I chose to freeze, and also what was left over that's called aquafaba. So when you cook beans, any type of beans, but traditionally people talk about it with chickpeas, you put chickpeas in a pot with water. After you cook it, the water looks like what's in the bottle in the picture right there. So people have called this aquafaba. And if you look up recipes on the internet, you might see particularly vegan recipes use aquafaba for many things, to make breads, to make desserts, to make some types of whipped topping for desserts that has things. It can be something like an egg replacer in baking. So just in case you run into a recipe and it says aquafaba, it came straight from chickpeas. And usually we throw this away, but in vegan recipes, you can save it and use it for something else. So preparing extra vegetables is another way to plan ahead. So this is an example of what I did over the weekend. I actually still have some of these vegetables for my weekday meals. Today, I used the green onions and the bell peppers that you see in this picture to make something like a stir fry without too much oil. So I just mixed those and made pasta with a peanut sauce and veggies. So it helps to have veggies prepared. Dr. Filipo, are there any types of vegetables that you like to prepare in batches, or beans? Can you give us some examples, please?
Yes, of course. I always save parsley or coriander when I have more of it in the freezer. You can save it really well. Also, another thing which we do is that when there are lemons, we squeeze them and get the lemon juice, and you can use that in ice cubes. And you can make small ice cubes of lemon juice, and you can use that frozen lemon juice in your cooking later on when fresh lemons are not available anymore.
That's a great tip. I think I might have to take that one from you, Dr. Filipo. My freezer is going to be full soon of lemon ice cubes. So thank you. Other things that I like to prepare extra besides just chopping vegetables is sometimes you're roasting or grilling something. If you have a way to grill, or if you're just roasting in the oven, and a recipe calls for, let's say, roasted tomatoes or roasted peppers or roasted eggplant, which, as we all know, we include in many of the recipes. it can be so much easier if you just do double or triple the recipe and then save those. And then you can add that to a salad later. An example here in the middle is also of some salmon. So instead of just cooking one piece, you can cook double, triple pieces, and then you maybe ate it for dinner in a cooked meal and add it to your salad for the next day. Same thing for sauces. So here's an example of a recipe that's included in this slide, in this video today. You'll be able to have it at the end. It comes from a cookbook, and I modified it a little bit. But and you've probably heard of chicken tikka masala. Well, there's chickpea in this one instead, and it doesn't have cream or sugar or much sugar. It really just has honey. So what you do is I make the sauce, and I only take half of it and mix it with chickpeas, and I freeze the rest, and I use it with other type of bean. In this case, it's canned mixed beans. So this is a way of making it really easy. So if I'm coming home from dinner and I don't have anything prepared, I'll pull out the sauce, defrost it, mix it with a can of beans, and pull out some whole grain rice that I already had pre-cooked, or some whole grain pita plus some veggies and fruits, and dinner is made in like 5 or 10 minutes. I'll also say here, and then I'll ask Dr. Filippo in a second if she can tell us some other ingredients that she sort of prepares in batches. So in my house, my daughter, who's 10, knows what omega-3 fatty acids and all different types of fatty acids are, so as I talk about it so much all the time. But one of the things I use in my household is ground linseed or flaxseed. So here in the white bowl is some picture of what the seeds actually look like. You can buy a big package of them. And then I have a modification to my blender that I bought at the supermarket that allows me to grind it very well. It's a seed or a nut grinder. And so I just grind instead of just grinding, because when I bake, sometimes vegan foods ask for flaxseed. I add it to all kinds of things. So yesterday I made whole wheat crepes, and I added flaxseed to pancakes. I add it to every type of bread. I add it in our smoothies, like Dr. Filippo says. So flaxseed is something that I usually have in a container ground, and then I have a bag full of the seeds that are ready, so that I never have to grind. I don't have to grind this every day. I just grind it every so often and then pull it out very quickly and use it in my recipes. Dr. Filippo, is there anything like this, some type of product that you kind of do in batches too, besides fruits and vegetables?
Yes, that's a lovely idea, Dr. Mosquera. I think I would add to that if you're grinding in Cyprus, this kind of flax seeds or maybe walnuts that are also an excellent source of omega, it's good to put it in the fridge, put it in a glass container in the fridge, because the high temperatures that we have now will cause oxidation of this and perhaps creation of toxins, aflatoxins, etc., especially for nuts. But I love your idea of doing this and adding it to different things. Also, salads would be a great place to add it, and porridge in the morning or whenever someone eats them. And for children, making cakes and adding a little bit in the cake.
Yeah, absolutely. You can
as you make the cake. Something that I always have. Yes, definitely. Sometimes something that I always have in my fridge, and I find very easy to have handy when the family is really hungry and we want something to cook quickly, is sweet potatoes and eggs. So we might make a salad, combine it with sweet potatoes and some boiled eggs, and then we have a dinner that would be ready in 10 minutes, like you said as well, or an omelette together with it.
That's a very nice example.
With the sweet potato. Mm.
Yeah, I think we're all going to be hungry by the end of this talk, right?
I'm beginning to be a bit hungry, actually.
So this is an example, besides the chickpeas, of other things that in my house I save for use later. So if you have other family members in your household, or even just for yourself, if you're going to make something like pancakes or crepes, and I have a recipe for fluffy pancakes that these obviously in my household would have ground linseed or flaxseed. I usually always make extra and then freeze the batch, and they defrost really nicely, particularly if you're going to add some, cooked fruit on the top. Today I actually cooked some diced apples with some cinnamon, no sugar at all, because they were nice and sweet, and I don't usually like to add sugar. And you put it on top of the pancakes, they taste delicious even if they're defrosted. So it makes it easier. So take advantage of your time. You're making pancakes, make double or triple. So now we're going to go into how you can use same ingredients in several recipes. So I told you that on Saturday I made these chickpeas. I pressure cooked them in an electric pressure cooker. And here are actually 5 examples of foods that I made just with that batch of chickpeas. And there were more, but I couldn't fit them into the slide. So on the left, I just went to a place where I actually, I ate savory pancakes that included spinach, and I thought it was a great idea. So I decided to make those as a part of our lunch that day. So we had the pancakes for breakfast and the chickpeas we made, and then I had a savory pancakes. The second slide is a cooked dish. That's the chickpea tikka masala. The third one is a roasted dish. So all this is chickpeas that were pressure cooked and roasted, and the recipe will be at the end of the slide. You can add some sea salt to it, but you can also then take those roasted chickpeas and cover them in dark chocolate that's been melted, and I'll show you a picture of that later. That's actually one of my daughter's favorite snacks. It sounds kind of strange if you haven't tried it before, but I promise it tastes good if you like chickpeas. And it doesn't really taste like chickpeas, it tastes like dark chocolate. So it's a fun snack to have your kids or anybody else in your family help you make. It's actually really easy to do. And it has much more vitamins and minerals than a traditional chocolate dessert that they might pick up in a packaged product. And then the fourth picture is a salad. So it's super easy to take chickpeas, salmon, chicken, and convert it into a salad. Salads are one of the easiest things to do with whatever leftover you have before. And here are just some closer pictures of the final products. So in a second, I'll ask. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Felipe.
I was going to add that I really look forward to trying those chickpeas that coated with chocolate. And I love the idea that you involve your daughter to do those. I think that's an excellent thing, to involve the children to actually make these foods. Another one that's really easy to make with chickpeas is hummus. People don't realize how easy it is to make hummus. You can just boil the chickpeas and in a blender, together with some of the water that you boil them with, add tahini paste, not processed tahini, some lemon juice freshly squeezed, and then some olive oil, a little bit of olive oil, and then a little bit of salt and pepper, and you have in a blender, you will have hummus in a minute or so. And then you can add different things to it, like peppers. Roasted peppers would be lovely, or tomato paste, or whatever you want, another vegetable, or some garlic, whatever anyone's like to add. Hummus is really, really good.
Thank you for reminding us about hummus. And it is true, there are so many flavors. If you go to the supermarket, there's one that has roasted beets in it. So you can add roasted beets as well. You can really add anything. I've had edamame hummus, so that has soybeans. So it's a great reminder that we can use our blender food processor. And even if you don't have tahini, I promise, because sometimes I make hummus without tahini, it might not taste exactly the same, but if you add roasted beets and other flavors, you can make hummus with almost anything.
Yeah, it's true.
It's easy to modify recipes. When you don't have something that a recipe says and you leave it out, you can experiment, and usually you can make it taste good. And so now we're going to flip into how to take shortcuts. I already mentioned to you one of my favorite ones is chopped onions and freezing them, because honestly, it's my least favorite thing to chop is onions, even green onions. So I usually freeze them, and it's easy to use those in cooked dishes because you like to use the fresh ones with fresh foods or salads, but you can use them in cooked dishes very easily. So just double or triple the amount that you're chopping. Bell peppers also freeze well. Kohlrabi also freezes well if you blanch it first. So if you stick it in a pot of boiling water just for a minute or so, and then you can freeze it. I will mention in this picture, I also sometimes buy frozen spinach, but you can freeze your own spinach as well. And so this picture is literally of these savory pancakes. I made it all with foods that were frozen or onion powder or garlic powder. So frozen green onions and spinach. And that was super quick. I already had the pancakes made, and I made this in like 5 minutes. So that would be a very easy dish to make, is particularly if you use shortcuts of using some foods that either you've frozen yourself on a cookie sheet and then stuck into bags once they're frozen, or that you buy, if you have the capacity to do so, at one of the stores that sells frozen foods. Are there any foods that you like to use frozen? I know you mentioned berries, Dr. Filippo. Are there any of the savory type foods that you also prefer to use frozen, or not prefer, but they use frozen sometimes as a shortcut?
Mm-hmm. You reminded me with the chickpeas about falafel as well, which is also really, really easy to make. You just need to blend again the chickpeas with some parsley, coriander, and cumin, which you don't have here, but I think you had before. Cumin is lovely, and whatever else you like to make. And then you can freeze half of that, and then you can straight from frozen, you can make it into the falafel again and put it in your oven to cook. You don't need to fry falafel. You can just put it in the oven and it cooks really lovely, actually. What else I have in my freezer? I always have something like the frozen berries that I mentioned before, which is really, really easy to use, either frozen or defrosted. And I also have chicken fillets, or some fish usually, which I would need to cook before proceeding. I don't usually save it frozen as when I cook it.
Yeah, thank you for those examples. And I'll add, I like the falafel idea, and I'll add that usually that tends to be a kid-friendly food. So it's helpful to have around, and it's easy to defrost. I mentioned I have a 10-year-old now, and a lot of times a food like falafel, or the other day I had a bean and some frozen whole wheat pasta, and I was actually busy in a meeting for dinner. And I told my daughter, or for lunchtime, I think, and I told her, these are the two foods. They're gonna be defrosted, and you're feeding yourself lunch while I'm in the meeting. So it makes it really easy if you have kids that are not toddler age, or a little bit more elementary, middle school, high school age. They can actually prepare their own lunch or dinner if you're busy, which can be very handy. So to go into keeping it simple.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about recipes, and maybe you don't like to cook. I mean, I like to cook, but maybe you don't like to cook, or really you don't have time, or on days like I mentioned when I may only have 5 or 10 minutes, and I would otherwise consider going to get some fast food. So it can be helpful to remember that if you keep it simple, you will always have something in your fridge, in your freezer, in your pantry that you can pull out in 5 minutes. So if you're trying to stay away from eating too many processed or fast foods, just remember that. So this is an example of something I did over the weekend. I really had no time. I had some of those chickpeas that were already cooked, and this is one of my go-to meals, along with what Dr. Filippo mentioned of the hummus. So usually this is what I'll pull out when I have 5 minutes, is some hummus, some whole grain pita, and some chopped up veggies. On the left-hand side is my daughter's plate. On the right-hand side, you'll see that we usually add some type of spices to ours. So these are some spices that make it a little bit more exciting, and you can change it every time. You can add a little bit of olive oil. So this is sumac and za'atar. Do you have any quick foods? I think you mentioned one already with the eggs and the sweet potatoes. Are there any other examples, Dr. Filippo, that you wanted to add of the ways you keep it simple, so you can make a very quick meal, so that to try to prevent yourself from going to fast food, so that you have something easy at home?
Definitely. I always keep cottage cheese and yogurt in my fridge. And bulgur wheat, if you cook bulgur wheat with some tomato, and some people put onion as well, it's very easy to combine with many different things. That you can make a salad with bulgur wheat and, for example, some yogurt, or bulgur wheat and some avocado, or some eggs, like we said before. You can also cook chicken in small pieces, even in a non-stick pan, and combine it in a salad together with, again, some pita bread, like you showed, or bulgur wheat, or perhaps quinoa, and that is really, really healthy and balanced as well. And the salad can contain green vegetables. It doesn't have to be just a normal, usual salad that we make every day. We can make so many different salads. It's amazing how many different types of salads we can make as well.
That's a great point, especially about the salads, because sometimes you might get bored thinking that in order to eat healthy, you have to eat a salad. What we're trying to show here is examples of, in our own lives, how we try to make healthy food a bit more exciting. And so, like Dr. Filippo mentioned, I talked a little bit earlier about roasting vegetables. So take some roasted vegetables and maybe some feta cheese and some dried tomatoes. You can make yourself a really nice salad, even add some protein to it. So try to be fun and creative, but try to make sure you use your shortcuts. So this is why I say be creative and enjoy. Cooking can be fun. If you like it, you can even figure out ways to make it even more exciting. So I told you that I went to a restaurant and I tried some pancakes with spinach. I said, that sounded really unusual. Let me try it and I'll modify it a little bit. So I added some chickpeas and I added some roasted pumpkin seeds. I just took a pan with some pumpkin seeds and heated them. It was a nonstick pan, and so they were slightly toasted. And I ended up with that savory pancake recipe. On the right-hand side, you'll see what was this is not a picture from this weekend, but a picture from Easter. So you'll see these were pancakes with fruit. So some of those pancakes that I showed you how I earlier, instead of just adding regular chopped fruit, I just chopped it and made it the base of a bunny. And I saw that idea somewhere. I can't say I came up with it, but I think it's great. You don't have to spend a lot of time. You see some people who make very elaborate, foods that look like pieces of art. That's not in my household. I'm not an artist, but it can make it more exciting if you add a little bit of fun. It only took 1 minute. On the bottom are tortilla bowls. So in my house, we really black beans, avocados, cumin. That's the kind of flavor that we have in many different dishes. So I usually have black beans with rice, brown rice, black beans, and avocados and tomatoes in a tortilla. But I got tired one day, and so I started looking around to see how people deal with tortillas, and I made a tortilla bowl. And at the end, I'm going to show you how. But basically, you just take a cupcake mold that you have that you put in the oven, and usually you would put the cupcake batter in the top of the mold and inside, like you're cooking cupcakes or muffins. But what you do is you flip it over and you put a tortilla on the back of your cupcake or muffin tin, and you make these tortilla bowls. And so it was the same exact flavors, the same avocado, tomato, guacamole, cumin, coriander, or cilantro, but we put it into little bowls and it made it a little bit more exciting. I also, in our household, we like variations of Japanese and Hawaiian food. So poke is a Hawaiian food, and it has Japanese flavors. But I saw somebody on a recipe that made a lasagna with the flavors of poke. So I decided, let's make a pie. So all you do is layer the flavors, and poke includes chopped vegetables like green onions, and in this case, I did cucumbers and carrots, and it has, in this picture, edamame, which are soybeans, and it traditionally has some type of fruit. So in this case, it's mango, and it has a sauce, and I usually just make half reduced sodium soy sauce and half pure lemon juice, and you can add salmon to this, and then you layer it with, have seaweed, which is called nori sheets. You put it on the bottom, one layer of rice, one layer of fruits, veggies, and your protein, and then layer that several times, and you end up with a pie. So instead of just having a bowl with the food thrown in all together, we made it in the form of a pie. And honestly, I made this, I think yesterday or the day before, and I'll show you a picture of how I made it. And this is one of my, if I don't have anything to cook in my house and I want to make a 20-minute meal, this is what I make, because I usually have some pre-chopped veggies. Or I'll show you at the end, I stick them in the food, like the food processor has grating function, where I just grate everything very quickly and stick it in there so I don't have to chop. Are there any ways, Dr. Filippo, that you kind of like to have fun with your foods, or have tried something a little bit different like this, or maybe with your family?
Yeah, I think one of the I was going to say that one of the interesting things I think I discovered, like by mistake, is combining some fruit with the food. So, for example, avocado and pear salad. If it's green salad, avocado, and then add a pear to that, it really tastes lovely. Or adding some grapes to salads, or some dried fruit. So combining the sweet and the savory taste together makes creativity and the food really interesting.
Yeah, it's a great point. Food is so versatile. You can really do almost anything with it. And you can experiment, but it will keep it exciting, because for some people, eating the same food every day can get tiring. For others, they love to do that. Mm-hmm. Like I actually eat the same breakfast every day, which is oats and fruit with some type of, sometimes dried fruit, etc. But some people need a little variety. So you can make it a variety of foods that are healthy and easy to make. And just remember that you can use fruits and vegetables for that, and really add it to all kinds of meals. As Dr. Filippo mentioned yesterday about smoothies, and I think we talked about this a little bit, but I'll I'll just remind you, like in my smoothies at home, I not only put fruits, but many people put vegetables in their smoothies as well. And it sounds a little bit weird, but I usually take the frozen spinach and process it first with water so that you can't see it anymore, and it just basically turns into green water. And then I add all the rest of the flavors, and I usually don't add any type of sugar to the smoothies, because if you use things like very sweet bananas, it tastes pretty sweet, or mangoes, or any type of other fruit. But you can add vegetables to untraditional places like smoothies, or fruit to untraditional things like salads, Dr. Filippo said. You can make it fun and healthy at the same time. So I'm going to show some recipes after this, but I just wanted to recap because we're getting closer to the end of our talk today. So we want to make, to encourage you to make SMART goals. Remember that it helps to have a plan for some people. So some people want to be organized and make a schedule ahead, but in order to make it more realistic for you to achieve a goal about healthy eating, healthy cooking, try to make SMART goals. And you'll be able to refer back to this video to try to help you remember how to make a SMART goal. But also the most important message is take advantage of your time. So on some days you will have more time than others. For me, sometimes it's on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, or any day that you choose to cook. Just take advantage the most of that time that you have that day by chopping extra, cooking a little bit extra, just double, triple everything. It doesn't add time usually much to what you're doing, but it will save you time later. And remember, like with chickpeas, I think between Dr. Filippo and I, we might have already given like 7 or 8 examples of chickpea recipes. So there are some foods that you can really make so many things with. So you could spend a whole week eating a chickpea recipe every day. You might not want to do that, but there are ways that you can do that if you want to. So you can stock your pantry, your freezer, your refrigerator with your favorite healthy items. And if you have them accessible, it makes it more likely that you're going to eat them. So if you have chopped veggies, you will use them. If you have chopped fruit or small fruit ready, you will eat them. So it will make it more likely if you're going to turn to a snack that's healthy if you have it accessible. And remember, it's completely okay to take shortcuts. I already told you some of the things I do, and I have no shame in buying chopped onions. So you can take shortcuts, and you can keep it simple. Eating healthy doesn't have to be complicated. If all you have time for is putting out a can of chickpeas and some veggies and some whole wheat pita on a plate, then that's what you do. Keeping it simple is sometimes the best way. And I'll tell you that with kids, sometimes that's the simplest way. So if kids are picky, simple foods are sometimes the easiest food to get them to eat. And remember to enjoy the process. So eating healthy should not be a painful experience. You want to eat foods that you like to eat, and make the plates look like something you want to eat. That will make the experience that much more enjoyable. Is there anything, Dr. Filippo, that you want to add in our summary about the today important points that we wanted to make sure that
we have? Yes, I was going to say we have a question by someone in our audience. Could you give us some tips for eating as healthy as possible at the restaurant in the cases we go there? And furthermore, could you give us some tips generally for vegetarians? If you don't mind, I will start, and then you can also add to that. For eating in a restaurant, the best thing I would say before we start talking about what to do when we get there is that we go to a restaurant without feeling overly hungry, extremely hungry. Because some people would say, I will save my appetite for when I go to the restaurant. So they will eat nothing since, if they go in the evening, they will eat nothing all afternoon and then go to the restaurant and start eating whatever is offered. So I would say for weight control, or generally for enjoying what you eat but not overly doing it, it's best not to stay without any food all afternoon, but have something like a couple of hours before you go to the restaurant.
Absolutely.
So the first tip I will give is try to follow what we said before. Is always having salads, even if salad is not going to be your main meal at the restaurant, but always combine whatever you're going to have with a salad. And especially if you're eating something in a Greek or Cypriot tavern where there are small dishes of meze, always combine whatever you're eating with salad. So order more salad as the food arrives, because at some point there's no salad anymore, and then everyone is just eating the meat without any salad. So definitely try to go for things that are not fried, if possible, a grilled food or some other way that doesn't involve a lot of frying, because that increases a lot the energy content of the food. And definitely have something that you enjoy, but perhaps in a smaller quantity, because I'm very pro having something that you enjoy, because it's not going to be, you know, like you're going to eat in a restaurant exactly what you eat at home. You need to eat something different, since you are in a different place and in a restaurant. You need to enjoy what you're going to order, but make sure that the portion size is controlled, because a lot of times we eat so much more in a restaurant compared to what we need. The portions are not the same for everyone, so don't consider that whatever is given to you, you have to consume it. You can always take it home with you. So make sure that you're not eating too many fried foods, you're always eating salad, you're not arriving at the restaurant extremely hungry, and have also something that you enjoy. Don't deny yourself what you enjoy on smaller portions. So that I would stop there so that Dr. Mosquera can add to the restaurant bit, and then we can talk about the vegetarian part of the question after that, perhaps.
Absolutely. I'll actually answer both at the same time, because I tend to eat more vegetarian than I can. So sometimes you actually have the choice of restaurant that you go to. If you do, take advantage of that. So I tend to choose places that will make things that I don't cook for myself at home. So that means that I'm usually looking forward to something on the menu. And so I like going to vegetarian or vegan restaurants. And so that if you have the ability to choose, take advantage of it. So that means that you'll be able to look at the menu beforehand. So many times I'll look at the menu so that I'll have more time to think about closely what are the types of foods that I want to be eating and make my choice. Because if I'm choosing to go to that restaurant, I want to be the most advantage of it, like Dr. Felipe said. So sometimes if you don't have a choice, like Dr. Felipe said, I tend to gravitate towards the salads, but to make it more exciting, maybe you will save the salad and add it to one of the dishes that you're already eating. So let's say that there is a black bean dish on the menu and you have salad that is served first. You don't have to eat the salad alone. You can eat it with your meal and mix it together and create your own recipe, even if they don't have it on the menu. So if it's vegetarian or vegan and the menu is meat or chicken filled, usually they will have something that you can eat, like a carbohydrate or a fruit or vegetable. And sometimes it's actually good to ask them if they will be able to do something for you on its own. So let's say they serve a plate that has a protein that maybe you don't eat, but they serve it with a vegetable or a grain, like they serve a wheat pasta with vegetables, or they serve couscous. So you can ask them if they'll modify something for you. So you're going to a restaurant as a customer, so choose things that you want to eat, but also ask if they'll change things for you. And my husband will laugh if he hears this right now, because in my household, I ask them to change everything. So I might take like 5 minutes, whereas his order is 5 seconds. So you really can say, can you please hold the sauce? Can you put it on the side? Can you grill it instead of fry it? Can you just look up for words like Dr. Filippo said, try to avoid things that say creamy and fried, but use things that say roasted and grilled. So modify away. That's usually my trick. And just do it with a smile so that they don't get tired of all the changes you're asking. But the overall reason is, if you're going out, you should enjoy it. You're paying for food that somebody's making, so make it the way you want to eat it. Do we have any more questions, Dr. Filippo?
Absolutely. No, but I was going to add for the vegetarians that if you are vegan, so you're not eating any foods that come from animals, research shows that you should be careful of some vitamins, like vitamin B12. So it's a good idea to make sure that you have fortified foods with vitamin B12. And at some point, if you have been a vegan for many years in your life, it might be best that you take some supplements, or that you do a blood test to check that you're not deficient of this vitamin. And other things that you need to be careful of is take enough iron-containing foods, plant sources of iron-containing foods like pulses, legumes, lentils, green leafy vegetables. And Sorry. And also ensure that you have vitamin C containing foods with these iron containing foods. So for example, have tomatoes with them, peppers, some oranges, orange juice, and calcium containing foods are especially important. So fortified foods with calcium and vitamin D. All of these are very important for vegans to be careful of.
Great point. And also focusing on the omega-3 fatty acids that we talked about earlier. So those are great points. When you're a vegan or vegetarian, you have to just be aware of what you're eating, and maybe you want to talk to your doctor or your dietitian or another healthcare professional to make sure that you're eating the healthiest way possible for your body, make sure that you're getting all the nutrients your body needs. So that's the point of the slide I have on the screen now, is that really the point of food is to nourish your body. And the point of nourishing your body is for wellness. So for wellness and how you feel today, eating well affects your mood, but it also affects your long-term outcomes in your health. So eating well can help many aspects of your life. I will start showing the recipes because I think we have about 4 minutes left. So I want you to be able to refer to the recipes in the video later because the video will be saved. And so I'm just going to put them on the screen. And that way, when you turn back to the video, you'll just pause it at that point, take a picture of the recipe. When I've gotten them from elsewhere, the link will be listed like this one. This is the most famous vegan pancake recipe. If you Google vegan best pancakes, you'll get this recipe. I just modify it a little bit to add, obviously, in my household, ground flaxseed, and you'll see some other changes. But these are the pancakes I made. This is the savory recipe, and I'll just leave it for a couple of seconds so that you have the capacity later to refer to it. This is the chickpea tikka masala, which is actually based on a makhani sauce that in Vegan Riches book that's listed at the top, but I modified it a little bit. And these are roasted chickpeas. It takes a long time to cook, so because you want to roast it in almost an hour, 45 minutes. So this is the kind of recipe that you do while you're doing something else. You finish cooking your chickpeas and you stick it in the oven and just set a timer and then come back and check it. These are the dark chocolate covered roasted chickpeas that we ran out very quickly in my household this week after we made them. So they're tasty, but I promise you might want to try them. This is a salmon and feta salad. So it's an idea of how to add, and you could add a fruit to this, like Dr. Filippo said. These are the black bean tortilla bowls. So I'll just point out that I put a picture in the middle of how you make the tortilla bowls. So that's what I mentioned earlier, that you just turn upside down the muffin or baking tray, and you put the tortilla on the back. You stick that in the oven like that, and the tortilla will molded around itself will cook, and it'll keep that shape. This is the vegetarian poke pie that I showed you earlier, and the picture on the right-hand side is the salmon version that I made with grated veggies. So that was so much faster than chopping them because my food processor has a grating option, and so that was a super quick way of doing it. And I'll just mention that I buy shelled edamame. I buy shelled soybeans that are frozen in a bag so that I don't have to shell them. This is banana and ice cream, which is the recipe I made with frozen bananas. And I'm just going to make sure I show you all the recipes because we're almost out of time. And that was the last one. So we want to thank you for joining us, taking the time to listen to us today. I love talking about food, and I think Dr. Filippo, obviously this is her profession, so I think she must too as well. So we hope we've given you some tips about the ways that you can actually eat healthy when you're busy, and you can have fun while you're doing it. And remember to involve your family, especially if you have kids, because we're teaching them, we're modeling for them, we're showing them how to eat healthy as they grow up. And if they learn how to cook from the time they're young, if they learn how to make healthy foods, they'll continue those habits as they're older. So I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to give Dr. Filippo a chance to give some final words. So thank you.
Thank you as well for joining us. I would like to just note that this presentation will be on YouTube. If you just do a search on YouTube for unique, healthy cooking for busy people, you'll be able to find it and get all the recipes and everything else that we showed. Thank you very much. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.